What is up, YouTube? I am Taylor, and this is my weekly comic book review show for the week of March 17th. Yeah, it's St. Patty's Day. It is truly horrible outside. It was misting and hailing and gross and freezing, slushy mess. And yeah, so I'm like, oh, perfect day to read comic books. Oh, and then it's those weeks where you're like, yeah, it's gross out. I'm going to stay in. I'm going to read some really great comics, and everything will be better with the world. Yeah, that's not one of these weeks. This is a mediocre week at best, people. There's a lot of books in here I really wanted to like, and there's a few I did. But oh man, this is not one of the finer weeks in comics, and that happens. I guess it's just that you can't have every week be a winner or a winder. Yeah, I'll stop making that stupid joke. Probably. I got a stack. It's a fairly light stack. Yeah, let's just get into it. All right. First and worst, and this is one I really wanted to like, is the Bequest, probably, or the Bequest. I don't. Who cares? Number one. It's sort of there's the whole fantasy trope of like regular people get transported to a fantasy land to help solve things. Yeah, this is the reverse of that, which should be really interesting. Where like fantasy heroes come to the real world to try and solve a problem and solve the real world ish thing. It's a mess. The art's kind of weird, and the action scenes are muddled, and the writing is just kind of all over the place. They give character sheets at the end, so they're wearing their D&D influence on their sleeve, and I wanted it to be so much better. I thought it was kind of a cool idea, and it still is a cool idea. It's just not very well executed, and I really did not enjoy it. All right, moving on. Orcs Number Two. Oh yeah, I go in the order of worst to best, by the way, if this is your first time watching this. If this is your first time watching this, welcome, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you'll get me being cranky about comics a lot. It's not that I hate comics. Somebody accused me of that last week. It's just that I want comics to be great. And the medium can be great. And it just frustrates me when it's not. And it frustrates me when it's mediocre. And there's a lot of mediocre this week, so let's get through it together. All right, back to the list. Sorry for that tangent. Orcs Number Two. This is probably my disappointment of the week. I really enjoyed Orcs Number One. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a nice little take on like kind of cruel characters and stuff. But this is just a mess. It's just muddled and muddy storytelling and like unclear transitions and a weird cliffhanger of a story within a story. And just not very good. It really just wasn't. I'm sorry. I feel like I have to apologize every time I diss on a comic, and I don't know if I should, but I don't know. It's the Midwest in me. We apologize for all sorts of crap. All right, this one it's okay. It's Bounty Hunters number 10, Star Wars Bounty Hunters. It still has the worst character design in all Star Wars. Valance, who I think is from the original Marvel comic series, and they kind of redone him to make him like a weird Terminator-looking cyborg thing. And this is the finale of a story arc. So and it's the story arc where I picked the comic back up. I kind of wasn't reading it before this, and so I expected like a finale of a story arc to be grand. You know, you want a grand finale. This is not a grand finale. This is a whimpering finale. It's just kind of, yeah, like there's nothing special about the finale of this story arc at all. Like, at all. It's just kind of the end of an arc, a predictable end of an arc even, and like just dull. All right, this one has potential. I'm going to give this at least one more issue, but it has some problems. Black Knight number 1. Like, tonally, the Marvel Universe does not need another sarcastic, wisecracking hero. but Spurrier's trying to do something interesting with this. This is, Dane Whitman, and like he's really. I've not been following Dane Whitman's quote unquote comic book career as a hero, so I don't know if this is in character form or not, but there's a lot of self-loathing in the main character, which is a little refreshing. But he also is also tries to crack wise and speak like an old knight and stuff. And it's got some messy parts. It really does. The Avengers don't really like Dane Whitman, even though he's led them, and there's a way too much attempt. Way too many attempts? Yeah, that's it. Words. English. Hard. Way too many attempts to be funny in this, and they don't land. Most of the humor just did not land for me. However, I'm gonna give it at least one more issue because there's something about a self-loathing hero that like, and I think they're trying to rewrite the nature of the Black Knight here a little bit, and I think there's just a nugget there, a little nugget that makes me want to keep going, and we'll give it one more try. I felt the same way though about the King in Black Knight one shot, and this maybe is the one more try, and maybe it's not going to go anywhere, so I might be wrong, but we'll see. All right. Yeah, Star Wars. Okay. Star Wars Adventures. There's two stories in this. They're both okay. They both are kind of about the bad on the level of like a bad episode of the Clone Wars. Not that the characters in the Clone Wars have anything to do with this. One's a Beckett story from that really boring movie Solo. And the other is a Qui-Gon Jinn. Is that his name? I don't know. The Liam Neeson and early Obi-Wan story, and they're fine. They're that's it. They're fine. They're just there's no breaking of any new ground in this at all. Which I guess it's an adventure story, so you're kind of like looking for like comforting, and so maybe this is comforting to some where you like you get some older characters that get a little bit of a nugget. Not see I keep getting nugget is the word of the week that I'm gonna stop using, but yeah, it's okay. The art's okay. The story's okay. Everything's just okay. It's mediocre, and this is mediocre makes me mad. It just does. Sword. I have liked this book up till this point, and this is probably the weakest issue of it. It took me actually this long to realize it actually is an X-Men book and an X-Men tied, even though Magneto's been in it and some of the other X-Men characters. They really are trying to tie this into the X-Men universe and Krakoa, and I think it was more interesting when it had the premise of being a space version, and it still has some of that premise. It's just I think it had to get shoehorned into the King in Black storyline, and I think it's kind of hurt it. I'm gonna give it. It has potential, and I like Al Ewing as a writer generally. Except for this is just kind of again. Yeah, there's just not much in this one either. I think that's Marvel's problem with this is like trying to fit everything into King in Black, and there's no consequences really to any of it. And part of the new X-Men problem is there's not a lot of consequences to any of the X-Men because they die, you can just reboot them. And I think Hickman knows that as the overarching Grand Master. He's not the writer of this, and I'm just hoping that at some point that turns into like something story related that solves it, because if you don't have consequences to stories, there's no point of the stories, and so there's no point of this right now. There's just not. And I think it'll get there, and I have faith in Al Ewing. It's just not in this issue. Erratic. This is probably the best issue thus far, I think. It's Carrie Andrews and Brian Reber, and Carrie Andrews. It's very wordy, very dialogue heavy, and a lot of exposition-y stuff. You learn a little bit more of the backstory, a little bit of like how the heroes and the superpowers came to be. Still not a ton. You just don't know exactly what's going on there, and you learn a little bit more about how Erratic's powers work, and the relationship in the high school relationship dynamics are starting to take front and center in this. It's not bad. It's just I don't know how it's going to wrap up in the next issue. I have a feeling it probably actually won't. I'm guessing it's just going to be the end of a first arc, and then they're going to maybe take a break and start back up. I probably won't start back up with it, but I'm 4 issues in, and I'm invested enough that like I'll give it till the end of this arc, just to see. Yeah. Sorry, you're going to get me cranky all week. This actually is probably a pleasant surprise, but that's only because I had this is Justice League number 59. Sorry, I'm doing these pretty quickly. It's the Zack Snyder cover, has nothing to do with the interior art. This is Bendis writing, and Bendis is so damn hit or miss for me. There's probably a first appearance in here, so if you care about that, go pick it up. I think it's a first appearance of some new villain, and Bendis is bringing back some of his characters that I've not followed because I've not followed his run on DC. But it's not awful. It's light. It's fluffy. It's Bendis-y. There's a lot of cracking wise dialogue, and like this, alien invader from somewhere talks like like Bendis thinks Earth people talk, and I don't know. It's okay. The backup story by Rom V also decent. That's a Justice League Dark story, which Justice League Dark sadly has been relegated to the back pages of Justice League now. It's no longer its own title. Um, that kind of is hitting on some beats that have been done a lot lately in Once and Future. It's bringing back a medieval times kind of person who's probably not a bad guy. It's there's a lot of ideas in comics seem to like go in waves, and like I don't know if there's collusion or like everyone just blatantly steals ideas from each other or what. But or the publishers or the editors all just think that's gonna sell, so we're gonna ride that this time around. I don't know. It's interesting because like there's I understand the idea of familiarity in comics and stuff, and there's some good to it. But like we'll see when we get to into this stack. It's just kind of gets repetitive if you don't have interesting new takes on things. And there's potential for an interesting new take on Dark. Especially the Justice League Dark thing. Bendis' run on Justice League, the main story, I have a feeling it's probably going to remind me of Grant Morrison's run in the Justice League. It'll be quippy and probably fine and introduce a whole lot of new characters. Bendis can collect a whole lot of royalties if they ever strike. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm just like I said, I'm just salty this week. Okay, Radiant Black number 2. This is better than the first issue. You start to learn what, like the main character's not incompetent. It's just painfully average and like wears it on his sleeve and struggling and trying to get through life and life's not going his way, which I think a lot of people can relate to right now. So this one actually is an improvement from the first one. It does have still kind of like an real American hero vibe to it. If you ever old enough to have watched that show, which given the demographics, yeah, you're old enough to have watched that show. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. I'm going to give it again another issue. It's earned a third issue. Like it was on the fence after the first issue. This issue's better, and we'll see where it goes from here. All right, James Stokoe, Orphan and the Five Beasts. This is a medieval, not medieval. Yeah, sort of a fantasy tale set, I think, in feudal Japan. I'm not entirely sure. It's a feudal kingdom, but they don't really. It wears its Japanese and influences on its sleeve, but I don't know if it's actually set in Japan. Power going horribly wrong, and like one orphan has to fix it. It's pretty light on the actual story. The art's gorgeous. James Stokoe, his art is like detailed and still manages to be a bit gritty, and the coloring is kind of moody and like you can sort of see it's not like very bright. It's dulled down and it kind of fits. Everything's a little bit like maybe a little too flat color wise and maybe a little too flat inking and art wise, but I don't mind it in this case. I think Stokoe knows what he's doing with the art, and he's also writing this. If I can't remember, I think he has the art on Post Americana as well, but I don't think he's writing that one. I like Post Americana a bit more, but I do enjoy this. I know Stokoe also did Godzilla in Hell, which was a lot of fun. This one I will give another issue because like this first issue is all set up. It really is, and you don't really get into a whole lot. That's the problem with a lot of the first issues lately. You can't just have setup, people. You gotta give me a little bit of payoff to make it worthwhile, and this just doesn't have quite enough payoff, but I have faith in Stokoe. All right, we're getting there. This one, Ultra Mega number 1. This has quite a bit in it. It's also $8 or $9. I can't remember how much it was, but it's a thick boy. You get your story in here. Kaiju. Kaiju is the theme of the 2021. You got Kaiju Score, you got Ultraman coming back, and you got Ultra Mega, which is Ultraman but not Ultraman. It's like average schlub men that turn into Ultraman that still have to somehow protect the world from Kaiju. And then they have hidden secrets that have caused some of the problems, and there you have it. It's fine. It's better than some of the rest of the stack, but it's still nothing great about it. I know another reviewer that I watched and really liked it. I thought it was decent. The action art sometimes gets a little lost. There's some cool bits in here, and like I do like the idea of like just a determined average guy, which sort of like Radiant Black, just trying to do right. And there's a couple people in here. I don't know. It's just it's the story's muddy enough again though that it's like we'll see. I'll give it one more. It's just, yeah, we'll see. I don't think it's an ongoing. Maybe it is. I don't know. Sorry. And I'm just be apologizing for the reviews again this week, guys. I don't know if I'm just in a mood today or what, but like, yeah. All right, but I'll do the last three. Are actually pretty decent. So, I Walk with Monsters number 4. This is still a tale of abuse and recovery and wrapping it up in like superpowers and revenge. And I don't know what's real in this book and what's not. And I think that's okay. Like I mean, it's comics, obviously, so nothing's real. But I'm not sure what's going on is actually going on. I'm not sure if the story's that straightforward. It might very well be. But there's a relationship between this woman and this young woman and this other guy that could turn into a monster. And there's something there that just leads me to believe that maybe that's not all 100% real. I'm not sure. It's intriguing. It's treading delicate ground in a pretty decent way. I like the art on it. It's a quick read, but it's just a slow one at the same time. Like a quick read of a slow story. There we go. That's what I meant to say. I'll keep it up. I like Cantorito's art. I didn't love it at first, but it fits in with Cornell, what Cornell's doing story wise. And you still don't know what's going on with the big antagonist and why the antagonist is an antagonist. But I think next issue we'll get there. This is still kind of more setup, but it's decent setup. All right, 2 books left. It's be a quick week, like I said. Nightwing. For the first time ever, I care about Dick. Dick. Don't be a dick. T-shirts, TaylorWinder.com. Okay, yeah, this is Tom Taylor. I like Tom Taylor's writing generally. I know some people don't. I know some people have issues with him, and I can understand it. But I like this. I never gave a shit, pardon my language, about Dick Grayson. I just never cared. And I still might not end up caring. However, I picked this up because it was literally because it was a slow week, and I'm like, well, I should just at least give it a shot. Like I care so little about this character that even though I like Tom King's writing, I was just going to let it slide. Or Tom Taylor. This is Tom Taylor, not Tom King. Back up, erase everything I said. Tom Taylor, which explains why I like it better. It's Tom Taylor who does a little bit better action than Tom King. Tom King gets all introspective and timey-wimey and like relationshipy. This is not that. This is kind of a little bit of introspection and stuff, and a little bit of character motivation as far as why Nightwing is who he is. Setup and changing of the status quo a bit. And there's a dog. It does touch on a lot of the beats that Hawkeye did, the Matt Fraction run. Like a lot, like a lot. But I do, and I think the Hawkeye Matt Fraction is probably better at this point. But this is still pretty darn good. It's still pretty entertaining, and it's still better than I thought it would be because, like I said, I just didn't care about Dick. Pause. All right, book of the week, and this might not have been my book of the week on any other given week. But it's still enjoyable, and it's still great, and it's one of my regular Marvel reads, and there's not that many of those. Thor, if you're a little bit of light spoilers, Donald Blake is out in the world, and he is pissed, and he's killing everybody. And this is the setup to the finale of that arc, and the finale is I think the next issue, and this is like still it's a setup issue, a lot of setup issues this week, but Donny Cates does not do small or subtle. This is all grand scale. And it's like assembling of grand things, and some of my favorite things are in Thor. Like there's Beta Ray Bill, there's Throg, there's Odin coming back, there's the mythology of it all, and there's the stubbornness of the Thor. There's like the returning of a lot of older characters in this story arc, and I love it. It's just fun, and I think on this but just given my sour mood today and the grayness of it all, I needed the fun, and that's what Thor is. It's not fantastic literature. It's not going to change the world. It's probably not even going to change Thor. It's probably not going to change the comic much of the status quo, but it's fun, and it's an entertaining romp, and yeah, there you have it. It is my book of the week. So take that for what it will. Here, I'm going to hold up a screenshot. Oh, there you go. We'll see if that makes it on the screenshot. If you're watching this, you'll know. If you've made it thus far, you'll know. Otherwise, you'll be like, God damn it, Taylor's in a whiny mood today. So, I was. But, like I said, I just want comics to be great, and some weeks they're not. And this is one of those weeks. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, don't be as much of a dick as I can be. But I do care about Dick. The Nightwing Dick. Later.